Hello YouTube family, James Green, Short Series Shenanigans. So another episode of making the fixture plates. So we decided on two of the fixture plates. We're going to actually create them because I have an abundance of 1024 cap screws, and I'm glad, good thing I locked the knee in place. But I have an abundance of 1024 cap screws. I happen to have a bunch that already have holes in them, and what those are actually for is for those of you that are familiar, like in aviation or wherever you need a safety wire stuff down. I have a bunch of different size cap screws that you can safety wire for things now because I have a bunch of them. It's like and I talked about that in the other video. So two of these fixture plates, yes, it's going to be a lot of holes. We're still working on the first one. 100, yes, I said it, 100 holes. The song crept into my mind. 99 bottles of beer on the wall, yeah. 99 holes to drill and tap, 99 holes to drill and tap. 1024, broke only one bit, and still going strong, drilling and tapping holes, 1024. There you go. So, you've had your music enjoyment for the day. So, I'll show you what I've got now. I was going to use one of my tapping heads, but problem is I do not have a holder for it that will hold the small taps like this. So I didn't get to show you the tapping head for that. Now when I go to do the larger ones, I will try to, if they fit, we'll use them. But for the 1024 cap, small machine screw, they will not hold the taps, too small. So what I did was, because sometimes holding taps other than a tap holder correctly, because you've got that square head on the top, can be difficult. They will not chuck up correctly in a drill chuck. So what I did was, I have my small chuck here. Okay, this is a straight shank 1/2 inch. It's a Jacobs number 30. Yep. So we used that one and drilled everything out with a number 25 drill bit. Luckily we only broke one. That was my fault. So I had extra ones here handy. Let me go ahead and show you what I've got going on so far. And I've got you on the left, got you guys on the left side of the camera so you can see. Alright, and I'll zoom you in a little bit here. Okay, so you can see what we got going on now. You guys will notice, and this is something I wanted to show, and some of you may already know about this type of a setup, some may not. This is actually a piece of 1/2 inch steel that is actually drilled on both ends. This is for the smaller taps, and it's got a set screw up here, so it's just a blind hole that goes up about so far, and then the set screw, I want to make sure it shows up on camera here. Let me rotate I've got it in low gear because I'm tapping right now, and so we're at 80 RPM, so it's really stiff. So I want to be able to make sure that the camera picks, yes, you guys can see it right there. Okay, so it's got a small set screw, okay, and you can see so I've got extras on hand. I haven't broken any taps yet because we're going slow and easy. And this is the tap we're actually using. It's a 2-flute spiral. It pushes the chip down and out the bottom. So it actually goes up in there, and it's held to keep from turning by the set screw. Now, these are handy to have. This is a nice thing to have when you want to power tap in a mill, or let's say you have a mini mill, okay? They're handy because it allows you to lock in a positive engagement as a set screw, okay? Keeps it from twisting. So on the other end of this, it's for larger ones. Depending on what size you have, because honestly, trying to get a drill chuck to lock on, even with this, they will spin because it's a hard material, and then you have a hard material, whereas drill bits are typically not as hard as taps, so you will get slippage. So I am not the one to think this up by any means. Someone thought this idea a long time ago. I happen to I've picked up some of these over the years in tool buys and stuff like that, but they're handy. You slide it up in a 1/2 inch collet, and or whatever size you have. 1/2 inch is generally good because that's a pretty common size that's in most, you know, here it's a 1/2 inch. All my Albrecht chucks have a 1/2 inch. I've even got larger stuff that's 5/8. Let's say you wanted to create, and if you did have an R8 collet that was small enough to lock onto, you could, but it's still going to spin. The trick is you need to be able to have, and I've even seen guys, if you're doing a lot of these, I've even seen them silver soldered into the little shanks. So I like the set screw because if you break it, you can dig it out, change it, go another one. And so what I've been doing over here, again, the handy dandy little magnetic tray. Alright, because I only broke one bit, and this one actually drilled, I actually broke it on about the 4th or 5th hole in, and that was my fault. I was still trying to figure out the proper hand pressure, because I was pulling, you know, I'm sitting here pulling the hand down, the mill down with one hand, and working, you know, the left, and then the brake, and the back, and the forward. And so I'm going to power tap a couple of holes. So we've already got these first 2 rows. I started in the back when I first started off. I thought, okay, I'm going to drill and mill, or drill and tap. And I went drill and tap, and I went, you know what, time out. And that's when I had the drill chuck in, and it was slipping. So I've still got to go back and retap both of these holes, which they're fine, they're just not all the way through. And I thought, you know what, let me go ahead and just drill all the holes first. So we went ahead, and so it's 500 thousandths in between holes. Now remember when I laid out the lines, they were not exact. Now an issue that I did run into laying out the holes, and I was trying to use just the spring calipers to do everything. Well, that worked fine until you started getting larger and the angle was weird, and you guys saw where I had to go back, and they weren't accurate, they're just general. So, you know, I learned something when you started getting wider and wider, and it would actually, what I found it was difficult was the sides out here. But where I had something here for it to rest on evenly, it would on the jaws, these lines turned out great. So, again, there's different ways to do things. I was just trying to show you quick, simple. Now, if you just have to run lines down one side, you can set up typically an old school marking gauge and do stuff like that. Again, there's different ways to do it. What I did, because I had difficulty on that one, on the others, I actually went in, and because these are going to be the larger setups, okay, and you guys can see the patterns. What I actually did was, and I even slipped a couple times, I'm not going to have holes all the way out at the corners here like I did on these, because these are going to be larger in diameter. And I don't think, after looking at how crowded that is, and these are going to be larger fasteners, they're not going to be on every hole. Okay, so these holes are actually spaced 1/2 inch. What I'm actually am going to do is I'm going to space these actually at 1 inch increments, okay, equally. Even though I went ahead and marked them out half, I got to looking at it thinking, okay, well, if I put a 1/4 20 there and a 1/4 20 there, and all I did is I removed 4 lines, but still, I got thinking about it. Okay, if I have that many big holes that close together, it's going to make this weak and probably not as rigid. So again, this is where you can always change your mind, and I'll show you guys to where a camera will pick it up. So what we're going to do, instead of every 1/2 inch, I'm just going to go every inch, and I'll start here in the corner, and we'll just go at 1 inch increments. Which what we'll do, because at the corners, so it'll work out right, we'll actually sit here and just work in. Again, this is just a general use fixture plate. There's no set exact that I need this for immediately right now. This is something I've been wanting to do. I've got a little bit of time to kill, waiting on parts to show up, and it's like, okay, while I'm in metalworking mode, because that's how I like to do it, I either have all my wood stuff out or I have all my metal stuff out. And so it's like, okay, while I'm in metalworking mode right now, let's continue on. I've got something coming up where I am going to need fixture plates. So it's like, go ahead and go with it, you know, kind of how your projects evolve. So we're going to go ahead, and I will forewarn you that the mill is noisy when it backs up. In back gear, when you're backing up, you can hear it go, and that's just the belt. You know, that friction belt in there when you go to stop it. So I found a way to kind of cut down the noise a little bit for camera, as I just hold the brake in just ever so slightly. But that's the noise. And we know that our phase converter is fixing to take a dump because I have to reach over and tap it because the points are sticking. And so, yes, hopefully at the summer bash I win either a VFD, and don't know if anybody's donated any rotary phase converters or anything, but I'm going to wait till after the bash before I try it. I'm going to see if I can limp this along for a couple months. So if I win a VFD panel, because I've seen that there, maybe I'll win that or something else. But my phase convert, so you guys, you'll hear it. Trust me, it does it. So we're like in limp along stage at this point, and I've always made sure that I lock my Y-axis because I bumped the handle. So standing over here on the left side, we're going to go ahead and work left to right, and we're using WD-40. A little thing over here. Let me get this stuff out of the way. And I've got these handy just in case I break one. And what's handy is another use for a toothbrush. When you come up here and you get ready in between holes, you can brush the crud out because that little brush will not always do it. And I just use that to put the lubricant on, and away we go. You let it feed and pull down. See, if I pull in on that handle a little bit, it gets rid of that noise. Yeah, that's an irritating noise. Yeah, that. When I'm not filming, I put my earmuffs on, so I don't have to listen to that. That's like hearing nails on a chalkboard. So let me go ahead and move over now, and we're doing 500 thou. So, whoop. Wrong way. That was the first hole. I forgot to take the slack out. So this is where you get to see the live and unedited stuff. Doink, 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 doink. And that is our okay. All right, let me take the slack out of my Z here, re-zero. I forgot to re-zero before I moved down to each section, so, okay. Pull out, and we go. Dang it, did it again. This is just not my day. I'm still thinking moving the other direction. So I'm just starting out for the day. It's like, wait a minute. I'm centered up on the hole here. Yep. Okay. All right, pull the slack out. Re-zero correctly. Okay. And we're up high enough. And we're going to go 500 thou. So 100, 200, 400, and 500 thou right there. Make sure we're above our hole, and we are, and there. Okay, so we've got the slack out because I've got 50 thousandths backlash between, and I forgot to pull the backlash out before I started. But anyway, there we go, and we've brushed the flutes. I figured if you do it in between each one, make sure there's no. And I haven't broken the tap yet. Kind of pulling up on the end on the quill, so that way when it gets to the top, what I have learned was you want to go ahead and keep a little upward pressure on the quill, and I'll show you guys if you guys can see. Actually, let me move you around to the other side over here so you guys can see what I'm doing, because if you don't keep a little upward pressure on the quill, you will strip out the holes, or strip out the threads at the top of the hole if you just let it sit there. Because what it'll do, it pulls itself down, but when you're coming back up to the top, once it reaches the top, it's just sitting there turning, and it'll just eat the threads out. So I'm going to show you guys from this side so you guys can see how I'm working everything. Maybe you can pick up some tricks. Some of you guys may probably already know all this, but it's just kind of little techniques I've learned through going through here, because I have not on that hole there and that one. I was like, wait a minute, I didn't have enough upward pressure, and so what happened was I ended up eating the holes out. Okay, you guys got it big enough. Okay, you can see what I've got going on up here and working the hand. It's handy to be, so when I'm reaching up here like this, I'm working the handles and the power feed and all that. So okay, let's go ahead and work. 1 or 2, 4, and then 500 thou. Okay, because it's 200 thou wheel. All right, come down, add a little go juice. And so it's already pulling down, and now I've got my one hand on the brake and one hand on the power switch. Push in on the brake a little bit so it doesn't chowder so much. And I've got a little upward pressure so it doesn't chew it up. And then we go ahead another 5, 2, 4, and 500 thou. Just make sure everything's clean. A little more lube. And once it starts, then I let it pull itself down. All right, that you got to see. That's the points. If you listen, they'll probably unclick. Usually sit here a little bit. And if they don't, you just got to tap the you have to tap the phase converter. Yeah, it's going out. So yes, you get to see it live and unedited. So we are limping along a static phase converter. I've taken it apart, checked it. It is, don't know how old it is. It was actually clean inside, so it sealed up really good. It's just, there is no telling how old that is. It looks like a Phase-O-Matic, and I couldn't find a build date or anything on there. I didn't look too close at the board or anything. So we'll do one more on here. So 2, 4, and then back around to 0 is 500 thou. All right, and a little bit WD-40. So yeah, right before I go to the summer bash, I am going to disassemble the head on here, because you can hear that belt. I've looked up in there, and as far as I can tell, everything looks original from here. I don't know, and you guys have heard that noise that it makes. That's the belt, and what I'm actually doing to kind of get rid of the noise so it's not irritating for the camera is I'm actually just putting a little light pressure and it only does it in really, really low speed in back gear. And so we are going to, right before the bash, I am going to disassemble the head. I'm going to clean everything up, and I know that that noise, and I keep everything oiled like it should, and I do have oil that does leak down through things, so we know that it needs to be gone through as far as up here with bearings and seals. And I'm going to order those just like while you've got it apart and do a good, that way I know the shape of everything. There's no abnormal grinding or crunching that I can feel. As far as I can tell, I've looked up in here, it looks to be original, but I don't know until I get it apart. I do know there's lots of grease and grime from belt usage and different things. The belt's actually in pretty good shape, but it's going to get a new belt while I have it apart. Why put it all back together and put an old belt in? So it's going to get a new belt. We're going to go through I'll even disassemble the motor and clean out the gunk that's in there, clean it up. So that'll be on video. I'll have that. I know other people have done videos on the Bridgeport, but we'll do one for Bridget. And mainly for me, it'll be a reference, not only for me so I can go back, but everybody else. Because, for example, Greg Halligan, go check his channel out over here. He did a video whenever he got his Bridgeport. And so for those of you that, you know, might be wanting to go through it and are subscribers to my channel, it'll be a different viewpoint. Everybody approaches it from a different angle. So we're definitely going to be taking Bridget apart and giving her, and this at that point I'm actually, because I've got my switch over here at an angle, you can see, and I've had people ask about that, you know, why is your switch at an angle? Well, let me show you here. Back the camera up. Okay, see that wire right there? This wire right here is about as stretched as it can be, okay, and it runs from the junction box up. So I stretched it as far as I could safely, and so we're actually, this is going to get replaced, and it's a 4-wire with a very, well, definitely a longer wire, because I want to be able to tram the head, or I'm sorry, not tram, but extend the head out further, as well as be able to, and when I get a longer piece, then what I'm going to do is actually fold this up straight, and when it gets folded up straight, because I've got room on the top here, and at that time after the bash is when I'm going to start building. After I build the head on this and go through everything, that's when I'm going to build the setup for the power drawbar. I'm not going to go through all the trouble and put all that stuff up there now when I have to just go ahead and take it off and redo that. So that way I can go through here, get everything done, and I'm going to mount the switch for the power drawbar will actually affix to this back plate here. So, you know, for in and out, that'll be right up here next to the power switch, as well as the brake. So, and plus this will also be folded up correct, you know, vertically instead of at an angle. And the reason it is that wire is just too tight, too short right now. That's the way it was, because the guy that had this, he actually had this hanging on a zip tie back here on the knob, or on that screw. It was just hanging over here, and I'm like, that's trying to reach all the way around. And you know, originally without the phase converter, this switch was actually mounted up here, and so, but still too short. I'm going to definitely probably add at least 2 or probably 3 feet to this cable. Well, a new one will be about 3 feet longer, and it will allow me to be able to extend out and rotate, or even if I have to tilt the head over side to side. That's another reason I've done some of the setups I've done. I've had people ask about, well, why didn't you just turn the head over on its side? And you know, I could, but what I have to do, and I did do it on some stuff to check, I actually undid this and let it hang back here. So until I get this done, and this will be after the bash, after we get back, and so at that time, maybe in the drawing out there, Barzy Industrial Summer Bash 2016, a lot of stuff going to be given away out there. Fingers crossed. I'm hoping I win a VFD, because I could really use one for this, because that phase converter is on its last leg, and I have to baby it. Here a while back, I thought it was the motor and brushes and cleaning, and it was. I went through the other day and tightened up a lot of electrical connections that were wire nutted and they were loose. I redid all those and I soldered them. And I put wire nuts so they wouldn't work loose, because they kept working loose. Soldered them, put the wire nuts on, taped them up properly so it wouldn't get loose. So I know my problem now is, and I'm fighting with it, and it's getting worse. You can hear it. You heard it stop, or sometimes you can hear the relays go, and I'm like, I have to reach down there, tap it with a hammer, just tap it with a wood hammer. So anyway, there you go. I'm not going to show tapping all of these holes. So the next step after this will be when we go to clean everything up, and I'm going to show you a neat way to deburr. Even though I've done it to the top, what I've been using for the top holes is one of my little Noga tools. Okay, and I'll show you guys all that, all the deburring, and one way to deburr a lot of holes. because on the bottom this tap is actually pushing, and I can feel it down here. We're pushing all of the chips out of the bottom, and they all look like that. So if you're curious, that tap, that's what the chip like when it shoves it down the bottom of the hole. So that's not the type of tap you use in a blind hole, because it'll shove them into the bottom of the hole, and you can either break a tap, which happens a lot. A lot of people don't know certain taps, they're designed to push the chip down, and that's what this one is, rather than pull it up. So there you go. I hope you guys have enjoyed it, and on the next video we'll show some deburring and cleaning up and just some of the final, and I haven't even made clamps for these, so we're actually going to take and I'm going to make some setup clamps, and that'll be all part of this series. So there you go. Thank you for watching, you guys and gals. Get the camera straight here. So there you go. As I always say in my videos, you guys take care of yourself and take care of your family, because remember, at the end of the day, you and your family is all you got. For those of you that don't do social media, my public email address, eagledustoff37@gmail.com. I'm on Instagram, Twitter. I usually just put my videos up there. I have my own Facebook page, eagledustoff37. Positive comments are encouraged. You know, that site is primarily for stuff here in the garage. Anything to do with, you know, machining related, as far as with the YouTube channel. Because I know sometimes people want to have conversations on YouTube, and there is so much traffic and stuff that I have at times, it's hard for me to go back and sit down and, you know, so if you guys have a question and you don't do social media, email me, eagledustoff37@gmail.com. Hit me up. We'll answer your questions. I know there's a lot of questions out there, guys and gals, that I get to all the time about why do I do certain things a certain way, and it's just the way I do it. You know, there's always a different way, you know, and, you know, it's just how I choose to do it. May not be the norm way of doing it. It just maybe showing someone a different way of doing things, and hopefully it helps you out. Again, depending on how far along you are in, if you're just getting started in metalworking, just know this: there's always different ways to do things, and just because I show it one way doesn't mean it's the correct way, or not necessarily a wrong way. It's just, this is how I do it. So I always get those comments out there, and I get, oh my gosh, I get hate email from people. It's like, you're doing this totally wrong, don't you? You know, I get these big, long, I call it diarrhea of the keyboard. Some of these emails at times from people about, and I'm like, guys, I've never been a classically trained machinist. It's just, this is how I choose to do it. So, you know, everybody has their own opinion, and I respect it. Hey, I respect everybody's opinion. So I always put that out there. Everybody has their own way to do anything. There's a different way to do it. There always is. And like I said, I tried doing the layout on this, and I figured out, you know what, there's a better way to do it. And changed around and decided that, you know, hey, the spring caliper, when you get wider and wider, it wasn't accurate. It was wandering off, and you guys saw that on the video. So we ended up going to the old-fashioned technique of make your marks, throw your square up there. It's a lot quicker, a lot less headache. So, you know, there you go. Thanks for watching. Thumbs up. Spread a word about my channel. And thank you to all my new YouTube subscribers. We're fixing to break another milestone. Spread the word. You guys, we'll talk to you later. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.